Music producers. I got posed a very important question last week, and the producer asked me, he said, what are some of the pros and cons of being an internet producer versus an in-studio producer? Well, let's talk about it. Music producers in this day and age, yes, there exist a few different directions you can go in as a music producer. Now, obviously, there's a traditional sense, and I came up really, in what you would consider like my OGs consider like the foot to the pavement generation, where you really had to be in studios to get placements. You couldn't email no beats to get no placements. I came within that generation, on the cusp of that, and really at the beginning of the internet push, and really figuring out, where did I want to go? Now, obviously, I transitioned. I've told you this story many a times, where I was going through placements. I was jumping in studio sessions. I was driving 60, 70 miles sometimes to go to a studio session where the rapper already had left, and that drive was for nothing. And I didn't get compensated. It was just part of what I consider paying dues, and part of the process of trying to get my name out there, trying to network and be an in-studio producer. So I can give you a very accurate point of view of the pros and cons of both. I'll tell you this, from the jump, being an in-studio producer, there's nothing quite like the excitement, the nervousness, and even the immediate growth that you have to have when you're in the presence of people who are working at a great speed. Now, when you're working with people who are actually, really about increasing your growth, they're really about, look, man, get on your game, man. Do not be the weakest link in here. Get on your game. When you're in an environment like that, it can be so great to your growth. It can be so great to your morale and even to your speed of work. And I've been in environments like that made it, being an in-studio producer, that made it such a benefit. Some more, pros of being an in-studio producer, I would say, is just being able to be face-to-face with rappers and talk to them and see the reactions to your particular beats. When you're putting stuff on the internet, you don't know what the reaction is until you're getting sales. When you're looking in studio session, you're talking to them and they're like, man, that one right there is crazy. You get a better idea of, even if they don't pick that beat, a better idea of what to show the next person that once you get in a studio session. Some more pros of being in the studio, I would say that, like I said, once again, it increases your learning curve like that when you're around people who are just great at what they do. Shout out to my boy THX. It's one of the most talented producers I've seen. His energy was so infectious that him moving around and doing the beats the way he was doing them gave me so much energy the next day when I had a session with another artist, and I brought that energy in there, and it just transferred. So I think that's great. I think that, being able to network with people hand in hand, being able to have them remembering you, and being able to really be a part of the process, the song crafting process, if you like that, I think it's perfect. Now, some of the cons of that for me were, like I said, you don't always work with people who are about their business. You don't always work with people who are going to say like, yo, professionalism is at the forefront of what I do. Some people are just not professional. Some people will leave you hanging. You may journey out to a studio session. Like I said, I've done that many times where I journeyed out and it was like, yo, are y'all recording anymore? Oh, nah, we've been in here since the morning. So then why you asked me to come in here? But that was the reality of it, and that was the risk I took by going out there and doing the sessions. Another thing is, you getting in studio sessions, you are being told, another con I should say, is that you're being told what to do because this is not your studio session. If you're an in-studio producer, you've been hired to be in there, you've been hired to create something that is in somebody else's head. So if the rapper is saying, yo, I want this kind of a beat that sound like this and it sound like this, and it's your job to bring that to light. So sometimes it can get frustrating when you're put in a room. I mean, I've been put in rooms where I was working with an artist that, just wasn't my style of music. And I had to find ways to adjust and become a better, communicator in that, but I still didn't like the end product. Sometimes being in studio, you get way too many producers around who are not producers. They never made a beat in their life. But all of a sudden, they're going to tell you about what kick and snare and what, how many hi-hats to add. I don't like that. They know everything about production all of a sudden, right? And they want to figure out why certain elements are not put together that they had in their head, because they're not letting you be the producer. They want you to basically be there as a hired musician or a hired, beat programmer to put these things in. It's just, it can sometimes be, depending on where you're located, it can be a huge, I don't want to say a waste of time, but it can definitely, dry your time up. And you can't get time back. Time is one of the most expensive currencies. It's going to cost you money, especially when I was going to LA. It was costing me money to park. It was costing me money, to commute. It was costing me money because I was eating more often because I was in a studio where I wasn't around food at the house. Those are pros and cons of being an in-studio producer. But as you know, I eventually transitioned, really not by my choice, really by the choice of life, where because placements were coming in, but the checks were coming in so slow and I was accumulating so much debt, it was not coming in fast enough to support my livelihood. I needed to have some money right then and right now. I needed to be able to, Warren Buffett always talks about if you're not making money while you sleep, you're going to work until you die. I needed to create that kind of flow, that kind of cash flow for my own self. And being an in-studio producer was just not happening as fast as I needed it to happen. So becoming an internet producer became to the point where it was like, yo, I get to make music from the confines of my crib. I get to sit in here, make music, wake up in the morning, put these beats together, put them on the internet, let them go out there, do my advertisement, and then go on with the rest of my day. I can determine my schedule. I can sit here and determine what kind of music I want to make. Not what's hot, not what everybody else says I should make. I get to make the music I want to make. And then also too, I get to sit here and really focus on my own growth. Focus on not having somebody else tell me what I need to improve upon. I can improve upon the things that I want to improve upon. And then also too, because it's just me in the studio, I get to figure out things about myself that I never would have found out before. Now, those are the pros. Obviously, I always preach being in business for yourself and the feeling as a man, as a human being that you have of having your own thing grown and having something that you put together your own self and saying, yo, this is my business. I run behind it. I stand behind it. This is what I do. There's no greater feeling in the world. Now, some of the cons, bad knees from sitting at a laptop for hours and hours on end. Not eating consistently because you're at home and you take for granted that your fridge is right there and you're like, I can always go get something to eat. Not being around people and really becoming a recluse and not being social with people has its own detriments. I would say also too, not getting sunlight. You need sunlight. You need that vitamin D, and I ain't about to pause that. You need vitamin D in your life for you to get the energy you need, for you to get the happiness you need, for you to not be down and depressed. You need sunlight in your life. I would also say, being just, like I said, being a reclusive can be a detriment because you want to be social, you want to be around people. People who have the happiest lives at the end of their lives have had great relationships. People who live long lives are people who have had great relationships. They have valuable relationships that contribute to their well-being of life. So, off top of my head, I think those are some of the pros and cons that I have seen within being an in-studio producer versus a at-home producer. I prefer being an at-home producer because I don't have to be nowhere. I don't have to answer to nobody. I'm my own boss. I deliver to my customers. I give them customer service. And then I don't have to worry about, going back to the studio to track something out. I don't have to worry about this person not being in the studio on time. I don't have to worry about anybody else's professionalism because I'm taking care of numero uno, which is my business. So that being said, as I'm taking care of my business, I don't got to be concerned with all the stuff going on the outside. I don't even get mixed up in none of the gossip or the stuff. I don't care. I'm here taking care of my business and I feel empowered by doing that. This is why I prefer being being an internet-based producer. But, it's great to have flexibility. I think you should try both at the end of the day and you'll find for yourself what works the best. Once again, it's another Curtspiration Doodle. If you need some more of this juice, please subscribe to the channel below. Be a part of the notification gang. Hey, thank you for all my Patreon supporters. If you want to contribute, go to patreon.com/CurtisKing. And you tell me, what do you think are some of the benefits or the pros and cons of being an in-studio producer versus an online producer? I would love to hear from you. In this life, you would not be full of life until you decide to live life to its fullest. Curtis King, CurtisKingBeats.com.
I can't listen to you. When I listen to you, it's a liability. Cause you be mentally killing my inner energy. So I'm concealing my feelings before you injure me.